Okay. All right. How about you edit this episode then, huh? How about you edit this episode? No response. That's what I thought. Coward.
I was doing my mic
baby.
check, but yeah, you know what? Maybe I will edit this episode.
Maybe you will. Maybe it'll be the
All you
best
do is
episode
sit
of the
there
pod.
And let the software do its work. You don't even do anything.
Yeah, I totally don't spend like an hour plus cutting out all the clips and the Discord lag or anything.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that at all. I would just post it as is. One shot, one take.
If the audio's lined up properly, who cares?
They'll figure it out.
Putting the intro and outro on? Nah.
Just run the audio.
What happens, happens.
It's not that hard, Elijah. I don't know what you're complaining about, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know what you're complaining about, spending countless hours doing something that doesn't pay you, that you do as a passion project.
I
and
know,
have
right?
been for 3 years, but
Why would I care about this being our 121st episode?
Maybe like around 123 I'll start caring.
Oh, well, we're almost there. Unless you're going to quit at 122, aren't you? You're going to quit at 122, aren't you?
Any
You son
episode
of a
that I'm
gun.
not on doesn't count, doesn't matter.
Oh, well, in that case, we're only at like 80,
12.
maybe. All right, Pookie, whenever you're ready.
No, I don't think I will.
Okay, I'll do the intro today then.
No, I don't think you will. Don't ever say something dirty like that.
I mean, listen, I am the editor. I have that power. You go ahead.
I'm the editor. I'm the editor.
Shut up.
You
work for me, you little dog. You get back in the basement. You shut your mouth.
Listen here. You do your intro, but I'm
quiet.
recording one
Quiet,
off pod
boy. Quiet,
and putting
boy.
that in.
Quiet.
All wings report in.
HouseDog, standing by.
MotherGoose, standing by.
Lowtech Tuck standing by.
Lock S foils in attack position. Animal Squadron ready for battle.
Quiet. Hello, and welcome to the Animal Squadron podcast. I am your host. I'm the master of ceremony. I am the one. HouseDog. And with me is my best friend.
Oh.
We keep him around because none of us can work a computer properly, and he's also kind of funny sometimes. And he's hairy and handsome and single, ladies.
That's true.
I think the only lady that listens to this is my mom, and she's happily married to my father. So, if you're single and looking for a hairy Sasquatch of a man who loves playing with pussy and Funko Pops, Elijah's your man. Did I mention he has 2 cats?
Yes, just to clarify, that's what his comment was in reference to. But hey, what's
But
up,
it doesn't have to
everybody?
be.
Okay, I forgive you. I don't know, whatever we were yelling at each other about. I already forgot. What's up, buddy?
Another week of the OGs. If you missed
Another
the
week.
original Animal Squadron podcast crew, we're here.
We're here. Today we are talking about Andor Season 1, Episode 2, Reckoning. However, I did have 2 quick little tangents I wanted to talk about first. You would be really proud of me. Last night, Andor Season 2 aired, and I didn't watch it. I controlled myself.
And your shaky little hands were reaching for that remote, weren't they?
I literally brought up the episode a couple times throughout the night, and I was like, I could just watch it, but I didn't. I controlled myself.
Elijah, we were streaming until 2 a.m.
I know, and I went to bed about 4, so I had a solid 2 hours to just steep. Think about it.
You were supposed to be working, and instead you were picking up the needle, tying the rubber band to your arm,
just holding it.
heating the Star Wars crack. in the spoon with the lighter.
So I have successfully held off one day. Now, do I make it to our review of Andor? We'll see, but I'm trying.
Elijah, you only have 9 more episodes to go.
Only 9 more. Also,
that's 9 weeks. 9 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. It'll, as long as nothing gets spoiled, I should be okay.
Well, then stay off every social media platform ever.
Real. So, also, Star Wars Celebration just happened, and I don't want to talk about everything, but I just was curious, was there any project that got announced or shown off that you're super excited for?
And we went to Celebration. Just kidding, we didn't go.
One.
Poor.
Hey, there's not going to be one next year, but there will be one in 2027, and it is going to be in the States, so maybe.
There's not gonna be one next year?
They announced that they're going to skip a year.
Man, Japan would have been cool, though.
It would have been cool. But, yeah,
so
maybe.
all we have to do is blow up within the next year, get invited so we don't have to pay for anything, be on a panel, meet all of our heroes.
Yeah.
Side
This is
question:
the way.
Who would you want to interview the most? And by interview, I mean Tuck and I ask all the questions while you sit there and
Be super socially awkward and too scared to talk. Yeah.
play with your Funko Pop. I don't know.
Exact. I think I gotta go with our boy Dave. I gotta go with Dave Filoni.
Really?
Yeah,
Out of everyone, you would
Out
choose
of
Dave
everyone.
Filoni.
I would. What about you?
What if George Lucas was there?
Okay, if George was there, I'd have to go with George.
Interesting. I have probably 3. Which it'd probably be Ewan McGregor, Hayden Christensen, and then George or Dave. Or actually, I forgot to mention Sam Witwer. I would really want to sit down with Sam Witwer for an hour
Yeah,
and just talk to him about. I could talk to that man about the Force for an hour
real.
and just listen to him.
Real. But yes, Star Wars Celebration 2025. Any projects that really stuck out to you?
Maul for sure.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. It's gonna be so good.
Been saying it for forever. I want more Sam Witwer back in the Star Wars universe, and he's gonna come back.
Yeah. Yeah, and, end of Solo, we saw he's still leading the criminal organizations within the galaxy. Start of Rebels, he's this kind of crazy hermit guy. What happened? And we're finally getting those answers, and I'm so excited.
I know. And looks like Darth Talon's gonna be joining the crew.
Yeah,
which will
really
be
excited.
interesting. Because she's Legends.
Yeah. Legends 100 to 200 years after New Hope, for reference, but she is a character that George saw and wanted to bring to canon. So to see that actually happening is very exciting.
Yeah, I would say probably my number one is that. I didn't see a whole lot of the Celebration. I kind of want to watch a recap, honestly. I felt like I missed a lot. Do they do recaps of the Celebration?
I don't think official Star Wars did, but I'm sure there are lots of content creators that did. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's probably Maul is honestly probably my number one, followed very closely by Mandalorian and Grogu.
Did you watch the clip?
No, because I'm not a feral little crack addict like you.
Can I talk about it?
Of course you can.
Okay, I just don't want to spoil anything for you. So you remember Jabba's son,
that's fine.
Rada?
Yeah, I know he's gonna be in it,
He's coming back and he's buff. He's buff.
and he's a gladiator. He's a gladiator.
We love to see it. I'm really excited to see how that all plays out.
I always like whenever we see the Hutts outside of being gangsters, because there was one that was a Jedi.
Yep.
Jabba's son is now a gladiator, which is kind of a different role for a Hutt.
Yeah.
We don't really associate them with. I mean, they are associated with power, but not usually physical power.
Yeah.
And the most we ever see them do is sit and slither. That's about
Right.
it. So it'll be interesting. I hope we do see some fighting from Rada.
Yeah. Yeah, I think anytime that we can see an alien species do something different in Star Wars, it makes them feel more real, like they are an actual species and not just props in a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sorry to get us on a little bit of a tangent there. Today we're talking about episode 3. I can't remember if I said the title of the episode or not.
No, you
It's
haven't.
Reckoning.
The Reckoning.
The Reckoning.
What a good title.
Yeah, this was a really good episode.
A great episode.
Yeah. Man, can we talk about his mom's line? I know that's kind of random, but when they're ringing
She had
the
a lot of good
bells,
ones.
and she tells them specifically, when the ringing stops is when you should really be afraid. It's in reference to when the people stop being afraid themselves, that's when they're going to start fighting back. And oh, such a good line.
Yeah, when she's just in there with that one guy and she's like, it's annoying, isn't it? Gets under your skin.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the banging you have to worry about, it's when it stops.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh man, the people are gonna do something here, because we know, like from previous lines and everything, this planet does not like outsiders. They don't like security. It's their planet. It's a planet of the people, for the people, and by the people.
Yeah. It's really good foreshadowing for the end of the season. But also just foreshadowing for the galaxy as a whole and the end of the original trilogy.
Yeah. No, this episode was very interesting. And I think this is kind of the tipping point. I mean, this is the end of the first arc.
Right.
So, yeah. What'd you think about getting a little bit more Cassian's backstory here?
I thought it was great. These kind of flashback scenes have been a little shorter, but I think they still tell a really good story, especially how they filmed it in this episode where he is leaving his new planet, and also the flashback scenes of him leaving his original planet playing out at the same time. It was just shot so well.
Right. And it was almost seamless, the flashback into what's happening current day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're not paying attention, it almost seems like they're happening at the same time.
Yeah.
Which I think that was done really well.
And you were right, it wasn't the Empire. This was Republic time for the flashbacks.
Yeah, and the planet is poisonous, I guess, because there was one guy that was just green from the poison.
Yeah. Maeve's her name, right? Cassian's mom?
Marva.
Marva, thank you so much. Her and her companion also have that discussion about taking the masks off. And she says,
that,
it's
whatever
not
it was
poisonous
burned
anymore.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, it's possible the green guy was just an alien with green skin instead of an officer whose skin got turned green.
I don't know.
Especially if it's Republic time, it would make a lot more sense for there to be an actual alien officer.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But yeah, no, I thought they were really good. And I can't remember, do we get more flashback scenes, or is this the end of them?
I think this is the end.
Okay.
I think we just kind of stop here and we don't ever really flesh out that story anymore.
Gotcha. Which we know what we need to know is that she came and she, got Cassian off the planet.
And I like how there was no lines or anything of that whole sequence of where they find Cassian and they take him back to the ship, and whenever he's waking up as a child on the ship, she looks back and realizes he's awake and she smiles at him. And it's not because we don't really know anything about Marva and Cassian's adoptive father here.
Right.
And it's just one line, so if you miss it, it's gone. But Cassian's adoptive father was hung in the town square.
Yeah.
For some sort of revolt or rebellion or act of rebellion. But that scene where she looks back and smiles at him, and it's not like a pirate smile or anything like it's a motherly smile, like she's been waiting for a child for all these years, but either she can't have children or, the timing was obviously never right or whatever, but she's finally got someone to take care of.
Yeah.
And I that's how I interpreted that scene, is how it felt to me, was that she finally had a child and had someone to take care of, and it was a loving smile and a motherly smile, and that's just how I read it.
Yeah, I agree. I also realized that this whole time they haven't been saying Primo, they've been saying Primor, and that Primor is the name of the planet and not the cyberpunk slang like I thought it was.
I thought you knew that.
No, I was wrong.
It's okay. It's an Elijah headcanon.
It's just that world, Primor, is so, like, it's got such a cyberpunk aesthetic, and Primo is cyberpunk slang, so that's just where my brain went.
It's okay, buddy.
I'm only a little devastated.
It happens. But we can say that they were saying Primo if it makes you feel better.
Yeah, in my canon, they were saying Primo.
In Elijah's Andor series.
Exactly.
Tim. You want to talk about Tim? Tim is dead.
Tim is dead. I really like that scene with him and Bix where she finds out that he was the one to turn in Cassian. And I completely forgot he died. So, like, even though she was angry at him, like, to watch him die in front of her must have been devastating.
Yeah. Old Timmy bit the dust.
I
didn't remember he died either.
Yeah.
Like, that happened, and I was like, oh, yeah, Timmy dies in the first 3 episodes.
Right? And that scene where they free her from the handcuffs, and she's, like, crawling towards him, and they pull her away. I was like, oh, just let her say goodbye.
Yeah, but something's coming, man.
Something's coming. Mm-hmm.
They have to prepare. And that scene where Timmy dies, you can tell that the security guys are not military.
Yeah.
And they aren't military trained. I mean, they obviously have some type of training just by the way that they move and everything kind of like that. But shooting Timmy, an unarmed civilian, even though he was posing a threat, is pretty crazy. Like, there was more of them than there was of him. Like, it wasn't a one-on-one situation. Like, if it was a one-on-one situation, yeah, you bet I'm shooting the guy every time.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to win. He's not going to win. I'm going to win. But there was like 3 or 4 other guys in that alleyway. Like, they could have just swarmed him. There was no reason to shoot him. But you can tell that that's just part of that. They're not a militarized group. They're a security company, essentially, you know. And so they don't have that forethought.
It's such a shame that their blasters totally didn't have a stun mode or something that could have just stopped him. Such a shame that they went into a civilian city and their guns weren't set to stun immediately.
Everything about this operation was just awful, which of course is the whole point of the story, you know, to see that Deputy Inspector he has the vision, but the precision is not there.
Yeah.
Pardon my rhyme.
No, I agree. And everything falls apart for him. I think most of the men he brought in, maybe not most, but at least over half died.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say that's an accurate assessment.
Because I think all of East Team except maybe one person died. There was the one guy that got blown up when he tried to fly away. I think 3 or 4 of them died at the speeder explosion.
Yeah, that was North Team.
Yeah.
They all got blown up.
So, it was not a good day for Cyril.
No, not at all. I really love that shot of Brasso leaving the scrap field right before that guy takes off. Mm-hmm. The other day, I think it was first episode, you said this is like one of the best shot Star Wars, in your opinion. Mm-hmm. And the more we've watched the show and gotten into this first season, I honestly couldn't agree with you more. There's just some shots that are so cinematically beautiful, and I think that's one of them. I mentioned the glove shot and the city square shot last week. But that one, just Brasso walking away. I mean, nothing crazy is really happening. There's obviously a lot of anticipation for what's going to happen in the scene and the rising action and what will happen after and the build up to that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something about a long shot of a guy walking towards camera. You just can't go wrong with that anytime.
Yeah. Yeah, this show is not afraid to let their shots breathe. Like, there's that shot, and then we've already talked about it a little bit, but that just final segment, there's literally no dialogue. It's all just shots with some music in the background, and it's done so well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely does. This show has done a great job so far of just letting the story tell itself instead of making the characters tell the story.
Yeah.
Which I think is a very interesting way to do things, especially for an opening arc.
Yeah.
For a show that we know is going to end with with the main character dying eventually in a film, but that his story doesn't continue on.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think
it's a very bold choice.
The only shot that I didn't really like, and this is the first shot I haven't liked the entire series so far, it was when Lutheran and Cassian were talking. The camera was like at Lutheran's hip, looking up at Cassian, but you could still kind of see Lutheran's arm just a little bit. We see that shot, I think, twice. I don't know why. I just really didn't like how that one was framed. But for that to be literally the only shot I haven't liked so far is really telling at how good this series has been.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, whenever you have to kind of look for stuff to say, oh, I wasn't really too fond of this, you know that something is doing a really good job.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Well, are you ready to talk about Lutheran and Cassian?
I would love to talk about Luthen, but just Luthen's walking stick.
Tell me about it.
Oh, I just think it's cool. For a while, I thought it was like a lightsaber hilt.
Yeah, I see why you would think that.
Just turned into a walking stick.
Mm-hmm.
And then I love the fact that it retracts into itself, the stick part of the walking stick. I don't know. That's it. I was just like, anytime he was walking around with that, I found myself staring at his walking stick instead of what was going on in the scene, because I was just like, man, that thing's dope.
Yeah. Honestly, the more I think about it, with what we know about him from later arcs, it might be a lightsaber hilt that he turned into a walking stick.
I know.
Like,
how cool would that be?
Character did do something like that, he definitely would be the one to have the means.
Mm-hmm. That, and I love his ship.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what kind of ship it is, but I think it's one of my favorites. I think it's up there.
Yeah, it is a really, really cool ship. But no, all his scenes were really great. Him coming in, his quick meeting with Bix, she's kind of freaking out. He's just like, calmly, and they talk a little bit and just separate so naturally. Him meeting up with Cassian, he's already like rigged the doors to explode.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just so calm. Like, even when Cassian points a gun in his face, he's like, well, I'd hope this would have gone differently, but...
Yeah, no, and I didn't think I caught this the first time watching it, but the way it felt to me in this second go-through, that conversation that they're having in the abandoned factory during this time that you're talking about, it almost felt like to me that Luthen wasn't there for the drive or whatever it is, and he was there for Cassian.
Oh, yeah, totally.
The deal was not to get the drive. The deal was to recruit Cassian.
Right.
And I don't think I really read that the first time I watched it, but this time I was like, oh, he's not there for that thing, that technology. He's there to get Cassian because Cassian stole it from like an Imperial compound.
Yeah,
and he's like, how'd you do that? That place is locked down so tight. And Cassian's just like, I just walked in.
Yeah, dude, that entire conversation of them talking about the Empire's arrogance was also phenomenal.
Yes, because we get some of that in the original trilogy, but not in depth like that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Of like, we know that the Empire has a lot of hubris and pride and everything, but nobody ever really talks about it. Not the way they are.
Yeah.
And I love Cassian's lines there where he's like, they would never imagine that someone like me would be able to walk into their place like that and pretend to be them because they don't know what it's like to be hungry.
Exactly.
But I do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm able to do it.
And I think to your earlier point about him wanting Cassian and not the box is when things start going bad, he does not care about the box. All he cares about is getting both of them out.
Right. Because Cassian tries to save it.
Right. Yeah, if it was the other way around, knowing Luthen, he would have sacrificed Cassian without a second thought to get that box.
Right. And he also saves him while Cassian makes that move. He just lights that guy up.
Oh, yeah. Also phenomenally shot with Cassian looking back and not seeing Luthen, and you can tell that Cassian thinks that he's been abandoned. And then that guy just dies in front of him, and he's like, oh, never mind.
Yeah.
This show really trusts the audience to put things together, and I really appreciate it. I had a rant on stream a couple days ago. I love anime, but anime has a really big problem of not trusting its audience. Like, they'll just go on these long tangents telling the audience exactly what happened, and it's so frustrating to watch sometimes because it's like, I know, I literally just saw it, and Andor is the exact opposite. It trusts us, it knows we're smart enough to put together what's happening, and I love it. And it's one of the reasons I love this series.
Yeah, I think that's why a lot of people enjoy Star Wars as a whole, is that there is always a broad message and everything, but it's also so open to interpretation. Every scene and every line, you know, it's for the fans to say, what does this mean to you in your world? How do you relate it to you?
Yeah.
Oh, this line, this character might be saying, you know, this one thing, but because of your outlook on life or situations you've been through, it could mean this to you. And it can 100%, that can be 100% the message of whatever that situation was. But it can also be 100% of whatever I say it is. And neither one of us can be wrong.
Yeah.
Star Wars, man.
We love to see it. On that, I was just thinking about recently, you know, Andor and Rebels take place at the same time. And it's all, both series are just that lead up to Rogue One and A New Hope. And I'm so excited for when Andor is fully out to just watch through both series together, because they're extremely different, but they both tell phenomenal stories. And like, I think they're going to really complement each other in the like forming of the rebellion.
Either that or we introduce Starkiller and his family crest as the rebellion sign instead of, you know, Sabine coming up with it. But
yeah,
that'll never happen.
Yeah, I really do think we're going to see Starkiller in canon at some point, but they're going to have to change the story a lot. Like you just mentioned, how the emblem was formed will have to be changed. Starkiller's whole thing with like helping start the rebellion, that's going to have to be changed. I think we could see a story of him saving the rebellion, but not helping start it, is my thoughts.
Yeah, so much of his storyline just breaks the current canon.
Yeah. One day.
Like, the idea of the Inquisitors would be completely out the window, because why would Vader have Inquisitors whenever, you know, he found Starkiller all those years ago? And
I think that I can justify, because the Inquisitors, yes, Vader's like their leader, but he's not the one that formed them. That was Palpatine's idea. And him still having a secret apprentice to maybe overthrow Palpatine at some point, I think could still fit.
It'd be interesting, for sure.
Yeah. I've already forgotten. Is it Marv?
Marva? His
Marva?
mom?
Yeah.
His adopted mother?
Mm-hmm. She gets put under house arrest.
I would say it's more like home invasion.
Yeah, I was so mad when she like tried to close the door after they said they had a warden and they just grabbed her and like barged in.
Yeah, and they start throwing Cassian's stuff around, and then she just sits on the bed and she's like sad.
Oh, I know. Like when she sheds a tear at the very end, it crushed me.
Yeah, I was about to say, what if it's a happy tear, but it's not a happy tear because the flashback is her remembering,
right,
as much as it is Cassian remembering at that moment, you know.
I think
And
a part of her knows that she's not going to get to see him again.
Right, almost like this time it's a goodbye instead of a I'll be back once things calm down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, another great shot that I can't believe we didn't talk about, the speeder bike going through the fields, like agricultural fields that they have on the outskirts of town, kind of. So good. I really enjoyed that one as well.
Scottish guy survived. I really thought he died. I thought he was one of the many casualties.
Hey, the only town person I know you care about is Bellman.
I love Bellman, and he survived. Let's go.
Did he? We don't know.
He survived today.
Or was he taken out in the explosion? Was he running by in the streets?
He was an innocent bystander.
He had his noise-canceling headphones on. He couldn't hear anything, Elijah.
He didn't know what was happening. He just stepped onto the road.
Man, it's tough whenever your heroes die.
Real. Never fall in love, kids. You just be left disappointed.
Oh, another great thing, the beginning flashback of Cassian seeing his reflection in the instruments on the ship and immediately like just destroying the ship. Like, this is probably the first time he's ever really seen himself. Like, clearly. Like, yeah, you can see your reflection in water and stuff like that, but this is probably like the clearest picture of himself he's probably ever seen.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, and then he immediately just starts destroying everything.
Yeah. Which I'm glad you brought that up because it made me think of the guy's line about, I love your spirit, but we got to get out of here, kid, because this being, I thought it was the Empire, right? So them breaking in, stealing stuff, whatever. This totally changes my opinion on this scene now that I remember it's the Republic, because like we know as audience members, the Republic as a whole was good, right? And was just trying to like keep their government together, but seeing it from the perspective of like, I don't know, pirates? Were they pirates, smugglers? What?
I think they're smugglers, looters, opportunists.
Yeah, I just like seeing other people's opinion on the Republic, like in-universe opinions from people that don't maybe align with the Republic.
Yeah, that was one thing that I kind of liked about the sequel trilogy, was they kind of made that a point too, where they tried to, of like, yeah, we think the New Republic is so shiny and good, but it's still people fighting a war and people profiteering off of that. And just because you're in the Republic doesn't mean you're really good.
Right.
Right. And we saw that in Mandalorian.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of the indecision that goes on within the New Republic.
And how it's still a bureaucracy.
Yeah.
The wheels of change turn slowly whenever people are worried about profiting.
Yeah. Well, was there anything else you had for this episode?
I feel like more happened, but so much of this episode was what we've been saying about how a lot of this was action instead of dialogue, which I'm completely fine with.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't a ton of dialogue in this episode, really.
Yeah, really. I mean, most of these episodes are with the recap, intro, and then really long credits. Most of these episodes are only like 30 minutes, roughly.
I think this one was about 36.
Yeah, it's insane how well of a story they can tell in such short amount of time.
But doesn't it feel odd that I think all the Star Wars television shows have about the same runtime, but yet they feel so drastically different?
Yeah.
Like Andor, it feels like so much happens every episode, or it has so far. And then with Skeleton Crew, there were, since that's what we most recently reviewed, so it's mostly fresh on my mind.
Yeah.
A lot of times it felt like things dragged,
Yeah.
or there wasn't enough happening, or things were very rushed.
Yeah.
I haven't felt like at any point in Andor so far that things have been rushed or have drug at all. Again, this is only the first arc.
Right.
You know, so we have 3 more to go. There could be some episodes that I'm forgetting. But yeah, some series just feel very differently, even though they all have close to the same runtime.
Yeah. Well, while episode runtime is the same, Andor gets an extra 4 episodes that the other series don't get.
That's a very good point. That leaves you a lot of room to play.
Yeah, I really think that Star Wars television as a whole needs to move to the 12 episode series because yes, there are a lot of reasons why Andor is so good, but I think having those extra 4 episodes to like we talked about the scene, the very ending scene where there's no dialogue, it was just people leaving, they were remembering things. It really let the scene breathe. It would not have got to have that scene if it was an 8 episode season.
Yeah, we wouldn't have gotten that shot of Brasso, walking towards the camera.
Right.
We wouldn't have got that shot of them escaping in the fields probably. Or we would have those shots, but they would be cut extremely
Right.
short.
This 3 episode arc would have had to be cut down to 2 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think that as a whole, Star Wars should let their series just be a little longer so they have some room to breathe, to have a little more room to be creative.
Don't lie, you just want more crack, you little
Yeah, I
fiend,
do.
you.
Yeah, I do. Dave Filoni, hit me, Dave.
Please, Dave. I'm good, I promise. I'll get clean, Dave. I'll get clean.
Which I'm so glad we're having this conversation because a series we finished recently as well was Bad Batch, which had 16 episode seasons, and there were times it felt like kind of dragged on. So I really think 12 is the sweet spot for these series.
I think you're right. Do you remember how long Kenobi was by chance?
I think Kenobi was 8, but I can look it up real quick. Oh, no, Kenobi was only 6 episodes.
Really?
Yeah. Which, honestly, the story they told, I feel like, 6 was probably good, or Kenobi's one that I even feel like could have been cut down a little bit and made into a movie, and it still would have been really good.
Oh, man. Don't say things like that.
But yeah, so last episode, we did kind of talk about how episode 2 was just kind of build up, and I wanted to see, what was your opinion on the payoff because of episode 2?
So to me, this didn't really feel like a 3-part series. It felt like we're just continuing the story. I'm so sorry. It just kind of felt like we were continuing the story more rather than wrapping up the chapter of a first part.
Yeah.
It kind of felt like we've been on edge this entire time since we've met Andor.
Mm-hmm.
And even though a bunch of bad things happened and everything, and there was a lot of action, that edge is kind of wearing down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And now we're going to get into something, probably more deep, where we're probably not going to have those long scenes of silence and just, shots of fields and characters doing things.
Yeah.
Now we're going to really get into heavy dialogue and seeing who people really are.
Yeah. I agree.
So that's kind of where I'm at. Rather than being like, okay, we had 3 episodes. What was the payoff at the end of this chapter of this story before we get to chapter 2?
Right. I think that was probably our biggest critique of episode 2 is it just felt like more build up. I think it was definitely worth it with what we see in this episode and what we see with the series going forward.
Yeah, it was good to... This kind of just now hit me. They wrapped up Cassian's past, present in one arc.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're looking to the future.
Right.
Because we don't know what's going to happen next.
Exactly.
Not that we know what's going on in the present while it happens, of course, but there's that air of uncertainty at the end of the episode of where does this all lead to? We know where it leads to at the end of the road, but now we're getting into the middle,
Right.
the journey, I would say.
Yeah, which I'm glad you brought that up because so I'm going to talk about the season as a whole a little bit here, but it does relate to this episode. I thought when I first watched this, okay, Cassian, they finished Arc 1, he's a part of the rebellion. And that's not the case. This is literally just him being hired for a job that leads into, the heist, which leads into the prison arc, which leads to him joining the rebellion finally. And I really like that they did that, and it wasn't just, oh, he went with Luthen and now he's a part of the rebellion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would have felt very... they could have gone that way, and I think it would have still been a good show.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this rounds out someone that we got for a 2-hour movie and never see again.
Yeah.
And that can be good and that can be bad.
Yeah.
Because if he dies at the end, what's really the point? You know what I mean? But it's like we've talked about so many times before, they're having to rebuild the galaxy because of the sequel trilogy.
Right.
And I think they're doing it in a very tasteful way where they're not saying, because they would never admit that a mistake had happened, and I'm not saying the sequels were a mistake. Somebody out there loves the sequels so much.
Yeah.
They watch them every weekend. They love those characters, and that's their favorite Star Wars.
Yeah.
And so it's for everyone. But,
exactly.
I'm glad that they're fixing things. And I think Andor is one of those series that helps bridge the gap of fans that were really upset about things that happened with the sequels and where it's heading.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Acolyte happened, and the galaxy was at war again.
Oh, I know. Dude, I was just thinking about Acolyte because of Star Wars Celebration. Don't get me wrong, I'm so excited that we're getting more movies again, but I was just sitting there why are we doing 8 movies and we're canceling the Acolyte? Why couldn't we have done 7 movies and finished up the Acolyte?
I would have been fine with... I've said this since we entered the Star Wars television universe.
Mm-hmm.
For right now, I love Star Wars being a TV show, whether it's animated, live action, anime, whatever.
Yeah.
I just feel like I feel like Star Wars is in a place where that's kind of its home, and it has been for a couple years now, and people were really afraid of that for a long time, of being... Star Wars is no longer movies, it's TV, and how does that work, and what does that look like? And it's never going to feel like Star Wars again. I remember that was a lot of people's worries whenever they just flat out and came out and said we're not doing movies for a while.
Yeah.
People thought we were kind of losing the magic of what Star Wars was, but I think people forget that Star Wars was inspired by weekly television shows. That was one of the things that George loved, was Johnny Quest and weekly serials. And as much as it is an episodic opera in space, it was inspired by TV shows and serials. And Star Wars is really well at that, and I've said that before. And I don't know how I feel about going back to movies, and especially 8 of them.
Yeah. I've got really mixed feelings on it too.
I would say that you and I are probably very much in the same boat of course we're going to give Disney our money, like we always do.
Oh yeah, I'll be in theaters day one for sure.
Yeah, we'll be buying the merch and the popcorn bucket and, the action figures or cards or whatever it is, But it is scary going back to that, because 8 films is a lot. And
yeah.
I am going to miss my Star Wars TV.
Yeah, which we're still getting a lot of Star Wars TV, but, a lot of fans I love Solo. Solo is one of my favorite Star Wars movies, but a lot of fans look at it,
which is very controversial.
Yeah, a lot of fans look at it and they say, cool, whatever, but we didn't need this. And that's kind of how I'm feeling about a lot of the upcoming movies. I'm more than willing to give them a chance, but I am just sitting here do we really need them?
But people would probably say that about Book of Boba Fett. after it came out.
Yeah.
Did we really need this? You know?
That's another one that another hill I'm willing to die on is it definitely could have been better. I have my critiques of it, but I really like what they did with it. And I really like what they did with the character of Boba Fett.
Mm-hmm. And we got a lot of cool people. Black Chrysanthemum, who was in the comics for a long time, I'm pretty sure. Cool as hell. Love that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing how the galaxy works after a crime lord is dead.
Yeah, right.
And what the fallout of that looks like. And, you know, how all the roaches come out of the dark places and start finding a new home.
Mm-hmm. Well, sorry, I kind of got us on a bit of a tangent there. Do you have any other thoughts on this episode?
No, that's okay. It was a tangent for Tuck.
Haha. No Tuck tangent. Missed it.
No Tuck tangent. Loser.
I miss you, Tucker. Come back. Please.
You'll just watch season 2 of Andor to make yourself feel better.
I genuinely mean it. As hard as I am trying not to watch it, if I get anything spoiled, I probably will break. I know myself. I know myself.
They dropped the first arc already. It's out there.
I know. Which nothing's been spoiled yet. This is probably the longest I've gone without something being spoiled, so I'm feeling good.
It's right there, Elijah. It's right at your fingertips.
It's right
First 3 episodes.
You just want me to break so you can make fun of me in future episodes.
No.
No.
I would never. Just because I have a modicum of self-control lately.
Yeah, I know. We switched places. I don't know how that happened.
I don't know either.
Anyway, I think that's all for today's episode. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you want to be a part of this conversation, you can email us at animalsquadron@gmail.com. Again, that is animalsquadron@gmail.com. And if you could leave us a review wherever you're listening, that would be amazing. For the Animal Squadron, this has been MotherGoose.
And HouseDog.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.